All right, welcome back, everyone. We're going to continue on with some more instruction here on the different parts of, not Inventor, but Fusion 360. So once again, I'm going to make sure that my document settings are correct. I made my default units inches. If you have not, remember you click on this little thing here and you can change that over here. All right, so let's get into creating sketches so that you can create some more complicated objects. In the past, we've only made some cubes. I'm going to go ahead and create a sketch right here. All right, and now I can actually draw some different shapes. So let's get into what these different objects do. So I can do a line. So if I want to draw a line straight like that, or vertical, or angled, I can do that. And I'm just using the left mouse button to click whenever I am going from one spot to the other. Okay, so if I go Control Z here, okay, I can also do a two-point rectangle. So I can draw, and as I'm doing this, if you look, there's blue. So if I do that, that's 2, and then tab allows me to do the other. So I can enter in both at the same time, because if I click and drag, I then have to go back and dimension this. So that's the other option. So if I actually drag this and I want to go back and dimension it, I can go here. By the way, to get out of drawing something, to leave that tool, you right click and then OK. And then dimension tool. So then I could make this 3, enter, click, 2, enter. Okay, so that's how we can make some squares. You have circles, right? We have a fit point spline, so you can click one spot, click another, and then as you create it, you can basically drag this to make some different curves. So you create some really weird shapes that you typically wouldn't be able to do with circles and squares, stuff like that, etc. So that's a spline. All right, a fillet, we're going to get in that here in just a second. So here's my box. If I want to fill it, I'll use the fillet tool. And basically this just allows me to create an arc, so that it's a curved edge instead of a pointed edge. So depending on how you change that, that's going to change everything. So the radius there would be 1. Another thing I can do is draw a line here. And this is what's called mirror. So if I want to mirror something, I want to mirror that to this. Oops. Sorry, my bad. All right, so you'll click mirror. And then over here it says objects and then mirror line. So the object I want to mirror is this. And then the mirror line would be this. And boom. Okay, so now I have the second rectangle, and that was my mirror line. So that is what a mirror function does. Okay, trim would be if I have 2 circles, for example, and they connect. All right, I can actually use the trim tool to remove one or both, so that it's one solid object instead of 2 different objects. Offset allows me to create another circle or object or something that is offset from the other. So for example, I could do a square as well and use offset. So I'd click and then you have these up and down arrows, and that would allow you to create some sort of offset between the other one. All right, and then we have what's called constraints. So constraints are going to allow us to make sure lines are doing what we're wanting them to do. So let's start with the first one, horizontal and vertical. So if I draw a line, and I kind of want it to be horizontal, but I kind of miss, instead of having to delete it, I can actually click on that, and it is now horizontal. Same thing with vertical. I can now make that vertical. All right. So that is what that allows us to do, is make something horizontal and vertical. So I'm going to make that horizontal again. By the way, to go back, it's Control Z. So coincident, this allows me to take two separate ends of a point and put them together. So for example, this line here, if I messed up and I want it actually to attach over here, I can make this line coincident to that point, and now it's attached to that end. So that's what coincident does. Tangent, if I have a circle, okay, and I want that circle to touch the very edge of the line, I can actually click on the circle and the line, and now the line does intersects, but it doesn't go on the inside. If it goes on the inside, that would not be tangent. So it lines up right with the edge of the circle. Equal, all right, would allow us, say, if I have another circle and I draw it too small, or you want to make sure everything remains the same, I can make this equal to that. Okay. So then, if you draw another thing, you can do the same thing. You can be like, oh, that was too big. I can make this equal to that. All right. So you can go through and use those constraints in order to draw better objects. Parallel. So say these two lines need to be parallel, I mess up. All right, I can actually go to parallel. This needs to be parallel to that. All right, so then they are going the direction, or they are parallel, so they will never meet. And same thing with perpendicular. So say I connect a line here, draw it, and then I go, you know what, that needed to be perpendicular. I can actually click here and there, and that will become perpendicular. There's nothing I can do now to make that not a perpendicular line. Okay. Constraints. Fix and unfix. This allows us to basically lock an object. So if you guys notice, I can move this like this. All right. I can fix that point there. And now I can't drag it anywhere. Now this can still move, but this line cannot move left and right because I fixed it. Okay, so midpoints. If I have a line and I draw it and I draw it there, but I want this line to be attached to that midpoint, I can actually click on this line and that line. Oh, the way I did that, it actually lined up the midpoint of both lines instead of connecting one to the other. Curious on how that works. Let's try it this way. I want this part to be, I want that there. Okay, there. So make sure you're clicking on the right parts of the line. So for example, if you draw a line and I say the midpoint of this line to that line, yeah, one error. Something with the constraint, perpendicular. So if you notice this here says it's perpendicular, and I tried to make it so this line ran along this line, you can't have conflicting constraints. So for example, if you want to delete a constraint, actually click on it and then delete, and that gets rid of it. So that should make it so that if I do this and this, then the midlines are connected. But once again, my original intention was to take this point and connect it to that mid point. All right. So make sure you're just clicking on where exactly what it is you're wanting to do. All right. Concentric circles. You have two different circles, and you want them to share the same center point. I can make them concentric to each other, so they share the same center point. Collinear. All right, a collinear constraint allows us to take two separate lines and then make them linear to each other, meaning along the same axis. So these are not connected, but if I go here and here, now they're collinear. Okay. If I move the plane, they are still all one line together. Okay, and there's only two left here. I'm trying to see if there's something you actually need. I'm out of the sketch. Let me get back in the sketch. All right, contains two rooms in there, symmetrical. Don't really need that. Don't really need that. All right, so I'm not going to quiz you on these other two, but anything here is fair game. So say we finish the sketch and then you realize, oh no, I messed up. I need to get back in there to fix it. To get back into a sketch, all right, over here you have your browser, hence the title browser. And at the bottom we have our sketches. Open that up and you can actually see any sketch you have. Be sure that whenever you're drawing objects that you remain in the same sketch and you don't end up creating a bunch of new sketches. So I can double click and now I'm back in that sketch and I can continue to edit it. Okay, so I think that is a good overview of different lines, different tools that are used to create sketches. And then we will do another video where we kind of show about the 3D elements of this software. Just go ahead and kind of mess around with sketches, figure out the tools, see how they work, and good luck.